Hey, everybody, welcome back for part B of this episode. Once again, the founder of Squadtrip, Darrien Watson. Yes, yes. So, for those of you who know, once again, we do have 2 episodes per person who is being interviewed by me. And I want you all to remember that the first episode is always fixated on that person's upbringing, their career trajectory, what inspired them to do what they want to do. And ultimately, I realized that sometimes you all don't want a full hour. You want a second episode, maybe just 30 minutes maximum, where we're getting to the nitty gritty of what that person's expertise is. How are they building their career? How are they building that product or building that community? And that's what this episode is for. So now that you all know that, once again, Darrien has built his company called Squadtrip, we're going to get a lot more into what does it mean to really start a company and actually grow it into something that's, one, profitable, and two, profitable because ultimately it's something that he is building to attract multiple customers. So he has built one company that is profitable, and now he's building something else to one day become the same thing. So, Darrien, what I want to start off with for this episode is getting a better understanding of what it was like building even before Squadtrip, which ultimately was a platform called Events on Whim, which is something that I even use for my events, whether it be parties or career related events. So, I want to get a sense of what was that company, what was it trying to solve, and then help us understand what did you even learn from that experience to build what you're building now at Squadtrip.
Yeah, sure. So when I graduated from college, I always had this yearning to really be in Black spaces. I went to a private white institution, but I pledged a historically Black fraternity. And New York is a diverse place, but I yearned to connect with like-minded Black people. I wanted to work together, party together with people who looked like me and enjoy the same things. Ultimately, I realized that navigating the event space in New York City and sifting through to find the right one that would be the right vibe wasn't that easy. And wanted to really solve a problem in technology, ultimately decided to solve a problem that I had. Now, so that's really why I decided to go in that direction and create Events on Whim. It started out as an app where Black millennials could find events going on in New York City. And ultimately, I realized that we needed to monetize. And speaking to event organizers, they talked about issues that they had with promoting and collecting money for events. And so that's what drew me to build an event ticketing platform for Events on Whim. But it was always really about serving the creators who were building these opportunities that I sought. I wanted to find ways to serve them, whether it was help promoting their events, letting other people know about it, or building tools that would help them promote or make more money for their events.
I love that. And that's very insightful. And I do want to highlight why I think something like this is so important, right? To your point, for you, it was that experience at college that did that for you. For somebody else, it could be somebody who ultimately just grew up in a neighborhood where there aren't many Black people and they're probably looking for another city nearby or even others in their own city who are trying to mix and mingle with them. And where do they go to find that information? Like, yeah, you can go to Eventbrite and pay for a ticket, but you don't even know what group there is to even buy that ticket. And ultimately, Events on Whim introduces people, one, not only to purchasing a ticket to an event, but ultimately being able to find that community that they're looking for. So I thought that was much so an asset. But now that you've kind of like described what Whim was doing and how it was helpful and what problem you were trying to solve, now I want to know, well, what did you learn from that, right? Because this was something that you grew into a profitable business, and now you're inspired to build what's going to be another profitable business and maybe even more profitable. So, what did you learn, and how did that inspire your next business?
Whew, what didn't I learn? I think the first most important thing I learned was that you can't just build a product for yourself. You have to you you can't just build a solution and then look for a problem and see who it solves that problem for. And I think ultimately that's what we did initially. The other lesson was figuring out how we were going to make money after we had launched the product. So, not to say things don't change, but you have to know who it's for because ultimately that'll dictate what you need to build and how you need to build it. And then you also have to have an idea of how you're going to make money. And we just got excited and getting started to build. So I think we had some problems because we had to pivot, and we're like, okay, well, we spent all this money to build something. We got thousands of people on the app looking for events, but how are we going to make money? So we kind of pivoted into an event ticketing platform, and I think what was helpful is we built relationships along the way so that I could now sit down with my target customer and ask them what their problems were and figure out a way to solve them. But again, building out a business, you got to know why you're building it. So if you don't have a way to make money, if you're not figuring out how big that market is and asking yourself how much money you can make, just know it might just be a hobby. And I think doing that upfront work is helpful because then you can understand what the exit strategy is. If you're going to build something that you think can be $100 million, $1 billion company, then yeah, there's room for you to go out and get venture capital. But at the time, we were building something that what they call is a lifestyle business. They're like, well, it's a niche product until we know that it's going to be huge. There's already a big player in the market. The investors that I spoke to were like, we're not sure if this is investable. And so while it was making money, I mean, there's a difference between making $1 million a year, which we weren't, and something that could be making $1 billion a year. And so that knowing you kind of have to have an idea of where you're trying to go because that'll dictate like how you can get funding, who you can get help from. Knowing who you're serving will dictate what solution. So like I got excited, me and my co-founder, we just wanted to do something that was exciting to us. And ultimately, we learned a lot through the experience, how to grow a business, what is attractive for venture capital and what's not. But I think we could have saved ourselves a lot of time and money had we known that information sooner.
And before I let you continue, there's two things I want to do really quickly. The first thing is, do you want to go ahead and give your co-founder a shout out so everybody knows who that person is?
Yeah,
Go for
sure.
it. Who's that person? Who's your co-founder?
So my co-founder and CTO is Stevon Judd. I actually met him in college. We grew up 11 blocks away from each other in Canarsie, but didn't meet until we got to college. And while we were great friends in college, we would take the rides back home from from Hartford, Connecticut, where Trinity was, back to Brooklyn, and then we actually got jobs in the city where we both worked a couple blocks away from each other. So we would take that L train out into the city. We were always thinking, okay, how are we going to make money? How are we going to get out the rat race? And so I found somebody that like I could just get in the trenches with from the beginning and who was a hustler just like me, similar background, similar neighborhood. And we were like, we're going to figure out a way to get out.
And with him being the CTO, what skills did he have to become your partner in crime as your CTO?
It's a great question. I think a lot of people always have an idea and they think that, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you got to find somebody to partner up with. Now, he studied engineering in college. And so he had that background, a technical background. And when he graduated, he was a developer. And so he could speak the language. He had access to the right people to like for mentorship. We could ask questions. So when it came to building out technology, I think we could have been more efficient in the way we did it. But I think without having somebody who owned the whole technology process, I would have spent a lot more money and probably had been hustled a couple of times. And so that just saved us a lot of time and money because somebody else was invested in it and they were just as concerned as I was.
I love that and I appreciate that. And the reason why I had to ask that question, and well, obviously want him to have a shout out because you guys are doing great work. But two, I want people to also understand like how important partnership is, like how important it is once again to build those genuine relationships, because you just ultimately never know, right? A person can help you get a job, help you get an internship, or ultimately become your business partner because you two both possess a skill where when you bring it together, it can bring life to something very beautiful and very empowering like Squadtrip. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Now, the follow up question I had for you is, once again, this episode is a learning opportunity for people who are listening. And we're using the word VC, we're using the words venture capital. And I want you to break down, like, what does that really mean? What is that?
Venture capital is money that's allocated specifically for a certain type of investment. They are moonshots in most cases. They're not looking for a 5%, 10% year on year return like you could get in the stock market or mutual funds. They're looking for what they call unicorns, a company that can be worth $1 billion or more. For them, they're willing to make 100 bets. They'll give $1 million to 100 different early startup companies. And if one of those companies, so that's $100 million, right? If 99 of them go bust and one of them ends up being $1 billion company, they've made all their money plus some. So they're looking for home runs, and that's why they always look for $1 billion markets. The venture capital industry, I'm not sure, but I think it's got to be in the trillions. A lot of money is parked there, and they make a lot of investment in early companies. And I think now entertainers, artists, and athletes are getting into that too, because we as Black people got to remember, like, it's not, we can't trade our time for money. Eventually, Serena Williams is going to have to retire. Eventually, LeBron James is going to have to retire. And hey, they may have to, $500 million in their lifetime, but these venture capital firms are making a couple $1 billion in a year. And so that's where the real money is at.
That was beautifully said. And to put it in perspective for our audience, a couple of people I want to highlight who also do participate in VC that you all may know: Kim Kardashian, Jay-Z, like Darrien mentioned, Serena Williams. Not sure if LeBron started a VC firm yet or not. Do you know?
I'm not sure, but he's definitely got his money parked.
In something.
He's in partnerships. Kevin Durant,
Kevin
all of
Durant.
them are
Yep.
doing now. Like, and like, I mean, that's how you really, really make your money.
Exactly.
Like, if you look up Nas, he's got Queensbridge Ventures,
Yep.
and I mean, he's made a number of investments that have like brought him X. Like, you don't have to get on stage and rap to make money. People who are doing shows and 100K for a feature, like, that's what you hear about. But there's people making $1 billion deals out here, and that's where the real money is at.
Exactly. So once again, to everybody who's building a business, Darren made a great point, right? Really be honest with yourself in regards to what market you're breaking into and how much money that company can potentially make. Can it become a unicorn where ultimately VC firms are looking to give you money to get it there? So I'll bring it back to where we were originally, but I wanted that to be a learning lesson for you all. So once again, started Whim, had a lot of learnings from that experience, and you highlighted something very important: speaking to your customers, speaking to your audience about their experiences so that you can ultimately give them the type of platform that they need to be successful. Now that you've mentioned that, I want to get an understanding of you having those conversations. Is that what ended up bringing you to Squadtrip?
Yes, absolutely. So I know I spoke about events on Whim. When we had launched events, the ticketing platform, I think that's when our revenue took off, right? And we had won eBay Startup Cup. They gave us like a 10K check. I was feeling myself. And Stevon and I quit our jobs to focus on this full time. And we quickly realized that, okay, we had all these plans for our revenue to go up and to the right and just keep accelerating, but it wasn't. And in part, it was because uh, we were finding challenges in just building a solution that we could get a repeatable customer base on. So during that time, I think we decided to open up a software development company building websites and apps. And that was really just because like we knew how to do that and we could bring in some money. And actually, a friend of mine, knowing that that's what we did as our day job, reached out and I asked if I could help with a project. He was doing I guess, an epic birthday trip every year in Antigua, and he had planned to have 50 people travel with him. And so he loves planning amazing activities, great experiences. He finds the perfect hotel, but he hated the logistics of sending email reminders, letting people know to choose what type of room they wanted, and collecting money. And so he really came to us asking if we could sort of develop some sort of website to do the painful part for him, letting him focus on planning a great experience. And so that's when I put like my product manager hat on. It's like this guy has a problem. He's got a pain, and ultimately he's very clear on what the solution is. It's solving the pain point of offering payment plans, automated receipts, auto billing, and collecting money for a large group of 100 people for a trip. And again, I think what we made a mistake on with Whim was saying, okay, we got a customer with a problem, let's go for it. And I built it, and then we were like, okay, we need to find the next 100 customers. And that's where the problem came. So before we built this one, we did some research to figure out how big the group travel market is. We realized it was in the trillions. Could I find how easy it is to find the next customer, the next 10 or 100 customers? If I search group trips or group travel on Instagram or TikTok, there's an abundance of them. And then I look and I see, well, they've got 70 people in a picture. How did they collect the money for all that? And so then I go to the website and I see a Cash App button. And I'm just like, you're collecting money for Cash App from 70 people? And so I'm like, oh, this is a problem. I reached out and spoke to a couple other people, and they were talking about how bad of a problem this was. So I figured, hey, even if we spend 2 months building a solution, I can then sell it to this person, that person, this person, this person. Let me do the math. Are you willing to let me charge a fee? Are you willing to pay me $100 each month to use my platform? And so I did what they call as customer discovery. We didn't build anything until we knew we were going to get paid for it. In some instances, we actually charge people up front to design and build their website. Like, okay, well, this is what it costs. And so I think that's one of the lessons that we learned through that process. I was able to work with people who were very motivated to solve the problem. So if I have a question, hey, do you want it like this or like that? They're going to take my phone call. They're going to sit down with me, pencil and paper, figure this out. And that's what you need. You need the buy-in. And I had that. And I guess learning from experiences, that's where we started out first. We designed what the solution was together with partners. Once we got sign off and validated that this is what they need, that's when we went and built the solution for them. So I think that helped us in a lot of ways. I already knew how big it could get, how much money we can make, where we were going to make the money, and who our customers were before we got started.
I love how you wrapped up with that checklist. And for anybody who just listened to that, I honestly want to remind you all to please maybe pause this, play it back really quickly, write that checklist down, and then proceed with the rest of this interview, because that was very helpful, Darrien. And I think that all of that was very respectful information. Once again, like you taking the time to do that customer discovery to make sure that you're building something, one that is interesting to you, is a need of a certain demographic of people. And then three, it's profitable. It's going to make you money because ultimately that industry is worth, to your point, a trillion or trillions of dollars. So now my following question to you now is, now that you know what business you need to create, now that you've created a name, an LLC for it, or whatever the case may be, and you got started on development, how did you know it was time to find an accelerator that's a little different than eBay this time? Now it's something else, which ultimately is called Techstars, and actually get in to grow your business? Like, what was that process like for you?
I always knew about accelerator programs. I always knew that that was going to be a stepping stone for me. And that was just because I wanted to build $1 billion company. I knew that that was the way to get there. Uh, and what we lacked Stevon and I was access to capital and the people who had access. So the Accelerator program I know was going to open up doors for relationships and capital that we didn't have. And a couple of businesses we actually applied to Techstars with events on Whim, our event discovery app, our event ticketing platform. We had gotten the second round the second time around, but ultimately they passed on us. And one of the biggest things that we were missing was uh, proof about how big the market is. They wanted to know that it was something that was a potentially a multi-billion-dollar company, and I think that's where we fell short. For me, how did I know we were ready for an accelerated program this time around? I think in part it was the experiences. I took a couple L's to know, okay, what am I gonna need for a W? And it required me to like check my ego. It's like, all right, well, I've applied multiple times and I didn't get in. So there's other people who apply and do get in. So what is the difference between what I'm doing and what they're not doing? I mean, what I'm not doing and what they're doing. So I sought counsel. I would ask people who were in that industry, ran accelerated programs, angels, what looks good, what's attractive, what's not, what am I missing? And I think that helped me kind of hone in on that. Now I knew it was going to be big, and but I also needed to get in front of the right person. So there's all these different types of accelerated programs. Some are for health healthcare type of tech companies. Some are, I guess, in the what they call the edutech space, education technology. And so I needed to find the right program where I guess what we see in the world and the future for the world is what they see. And I think there's a saying, I forget how it goes. I don't want to butcher it, but um, something about not selling Bibles. You only sell Bibles to the converted.
Mm.
So I needed to find people who believed what I believe about the world and the future. Now you at the very least have to validate that that market is big enough. And then I can either find people who have money and then educate them on the opportunity, or find people who have money and already believe what I believe. And through my network, again, I was actually my old roommate. He knew what we were building. Once we were getting ready to launch, he was like, "This is big. You got to talk to my sister. She's in the venture capital space. She'll know what to do." I talked to her, and she's like, "You got to talk to this guy named Trey Baker. He's the managing director of Techstars built in Tulsa, and he's gonna like what you're doing. He's in the travel space himself." And so now I think again, I found a potential leader who already saw the world the way I saw, because he already invested in travel, in a travel business, and he understands how this world works. And so it just seemed like an ideal place to apply. And ultimately, I think you got to be strategic, really. Um, your time, you only have but so much time, and so I had to funnel that and not just apply everywhere. And like right now I'm raising capital for the company. I can't just pitch to anybody. I got to find people who believe what I believe and who can also add value, because all money isn't good money. So I think that's what I kind of used as a way to discern where I needed to apply people who would see the value because they have some expertise or experience in that same market.
That was so great. And there's a couple of things I want to unpack here. The first thing being, for everybody who's listening, you heard him mention that he was speaking to angels. And to my religious folks, I know that oftentimes you do put your hands together and pray to the heavens above and hope that angels are watching you. But in this particular case, that's not what he's referring to. He's actually referring to something called angel investors. So we talked about venture capital. Now we're talking about angel investors. Darrien, please explain to everybody what it means to have an angel investor versus crossing your hands and speaking to the angels above.
Sure. Well, when I become a billionaire, I will then look to invest my money so that my money can make money while I'm sleeping. Now, I can always park it with a VC firm and give them access to my capital and invest on my behalf. That's what a lot of individuals do when they have investment advisors. But some people, angel investors, like to work directly with founders who they connect with in industries that they're interested in, and they'll just go ahead and write a check to you and say, "Hey, listen, I love what you're doing. I know you don't have a team, but I'm confident you're going to figure it out." So I guess the barrier for entry is a little bit lower for angel investors, the individuals who are independently wealthy. They have millions of dollars, and they're willing to invest their money. And venture capital firms, they do the same, but because it's a company, they have this long list of criteria and steps in a process before they'll actually deploy that capital. When it comes to an angel investor, if you hit it off with them, they just might write the check then and there.
That was a great explanation. Now, my follow up now is Darrien took the time to walk us through what it means to be an applicant for these accelerators. In general, what these accelerators are looking for. He mentioned that he is a part of an accelerator right now, which is called Techstars, and also mentioned, once again, what do you need to focus on to get into those, as well as the fact that he is now currently in one where he's also like looking for capital. Darrien, if you can give everyone like a checklist of what you get from being a part of Techstars, like what would that checklist be?
I think for everybody, it depends on what your needs are. But Techstars has a global network of thousands of founders, investors, and mentors. So for me, it was about access to people that who I might not be able to get in touch with. So uh, one big thing is they have this thing called Mentor Madness. So they basically set you up with interviews with a bunch of potential mentors for you to match and see who is it that you want to bring into your mentor group, because you're going to have people that you need to text, ask questions, who are going to help you along the way. Things that I've been missing my entire life. I now have access to this network of potential mentors, and that's really huge because that mentor might be a multimillionaire. They might have built and sold a company that you know about or use. These people are giving up their time because they want to pay it forward, but like this is stuff that they like to do. So all they have to do is find somebody that they're interested in what they're doing, and hey, it's they're getting something out of it as well. Sometimes it's even an opportunity to invest in your product. So I think that's really huge. Just the network. There are people who I've been able to sit down with and speak with that, like, even if there's no amount of money. If you're rich, there's no amount of money that's going to get you to sit down and talk to me for 30 minutes. Like, I can't pay you enough. But because you're a part of this network, they'll do that favor and talk to you. So I think that's really huge. Obviously, on the walk-in, you have the opportunity to take, I guess, an offer for 20K plus another $100,000. So that's a total of $120,000 that you can get access to help accelerate your business. I think Techstars is like, it's a brand name. It's like Harvard. So, but for the technology startup space. So when getting into Techstars and putting that on our resume, that just means that if I reach out to a potential channel partner, a potential customer who's high up, they're more likely to listen. When it comes to like me actually trying to hire folks and individuals, like, hey, this person has the opportunity to work at Google, or they could come work for my startup. The Techstars brand name gets you those meetings and those opportunities where you'd have to work really hard otherwise to sort of build that up. So I think, again, money, access to mentors and resources. They even have a treasure trove, like anything that you need to run your business, there's a Techstars discount. And sometimes it's just free. And so we're saving thousands of dollars running our business, whether it's using SendGrid, Twilio, MailChimp, all these different products. Like, they have a discount because of Techstars. So there's just a wealth of resources, mentors, access to capital that just puts you in the right room. I've already had billionaires come and do lectures, 12 people in the room and the billionaire twice a week. and that happens often. So I think it's an amazing program. But for me, I like if you grow up and you have the connections and do your thing. But I didn't have the access to capital, potential mentors, and they were able to just have me kind of skip the line.
Phenomenal checklist. And as we near the end of this interview, I do have two more questions for you. Um, but one thing I do want to quickly highlight to everyone is once again, like Techstars is a great accelerator. There's Blackstone Launchpad. I actually participated in that accelerator, which gave me $5,000 and an opportunity to network with like fellow students or even people who have already started companies and sold them to give advisement and things like that. There's a organization and VC called Visible Hands. Those are a couple of platforms that come to mind. So once again, like how I mentioned about the superstar celebrities that have their own VC firms, once again, these are a couple of accelerators that are out there looking to help you all build your companies. Even prior to even having an idea for it, some of them even actually help you sculpt an idea and help you find team members to bring life to those businesses. So once again, don't let this go through one ear and out the other. Make sure you have that notepad down and actually like do some research into these organizations. So
Yeah, the money is out there.
get that money, y'all. Pay attention to once again, like the market size, how much earning potential there really is, and build businesses that will ultimately allow, once again, even more Black and Latino folks to like become billionaires. We're always talking about how we want to see more of that representation. Well, Darrien's giving you insight into how that can be possible. So make sure y'all paying attention. Now, my last two questions for you. The first question is, so you're a part of Techstar, you're in this accelerator, and from conversations that you and I have had that everybody has had the chance to like listen in on, is actually being welcomed into the Tulsa, Oklahoma community and environment now. So I want you to give some insight into like what's going on in Tulsa. Like, why are people going out there? Why are accelerators out there creating some kind of mix up? What's happening? I'm clueless, I guess.
Who it's really something special. They're building infrastructure for Black entrepreneurs to succeed, and that's not just in the tech space. Just all sorts of Black entrepreneurship, and they have the backing from some great organizations that really are putting their money where their mouth is. And I just want to say shout out to Building Tulsa. So Building Tulsa is the host of the Techstars Accelerator program in Tulsa. And they put on amazing programming. Uh, it's not just, I guess, the Techstars ecosystem that we're a part of. We're part of the Tulsa ecosystem. And I guess they're on a mission to really use technology to close the racial wealth gap. So they have all sorts of programming. Uh, even I think there's another organization called Tulsa Remote out here where they'll actually pay you $10,000 to move and work remotely from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that's in part because they want to enrich the ecosystem with bright minds. And and so I think they're providing those resources to do so. But once you get here, if you want to start a business, they have all these pitch competitions, accelerated programs. I'm in one of them out here in Tulsa. And so it's really special, especially considering the history of Greenwood, aka Black Wall Street.
Thank you for that. And once again, everybody, if you haven't heard of Black Wall Street and its history in Tulsa, please look that up. It's a big part of Black American history here in the United States. I think it's very important that you all kind of take some time to research that and get a understanding as to like why it's so important for the Black community to really come together and build profitable businesses and help people become more wealthy so that we can invest in the longevity of Black wealth, Black success. So please find time to look into that. All right. So thank you so much for that, Darrien. And before we get into the final question of this episode, is there any piece of advice that you want to give to our audience today?
I just want to say you can do it. You can do it. And there are resources out there. I know it's hard, but and when you do succeed, just make sure that you give back because ultimately I think access is the new civil right. And I'm in a position where like I can do just a little bit more than my mom was able to do. And so I want to take full advantage of that. I want to encourage you to take full advantage of that. You can do it, and then you can be a guiding light for others as well.
That was amazing. If I was ever on Instagram and I heard that, I would feel extremely empowered to start that business that I've been sitting on for like the past 3 to 4 years. If you all don't feel that same way, I don't know what to tell you. I feel empowered. Thank you so much, Darrien. Now, my final question to you, and once again, it always sucks to have to wrap up an interview since everybody loves learning from you all. But my final question to you is, what does the future of travel look like? Dum dum dum.
Everyone loves to travel and spend time experiencing other countries, right? I think COVID's accelerated that. And this generation will be the generation of global citizens. They really want to share experiences with the rest of the world. Squadtrip is going to enable global group travel where anyone can create a travel experience and share that with friends.
That is phenomenal. And I'm so happy you mentioned this concept of becoming a global citizen because I feel like over the past few years, people have been growing more interest in traveling and learning more about what it's like outside in the greater world, even beyond their local or national environments. So you just even highlighting that lets me know that you are future forward. Like you are thinking about how the people that you're bringing onto your platform, maybe in a business case, you see the vision for how they can actually bring more positivity, even just beyond where you are in DC right now. They're bringing positivity all across the globe through their birthdays, celebrations, just random fun trips and link ups, whatever it is, you're giving life to that because you know that people want to become global citizens. So I love that, Darrien. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So that's all that we have for you all today. Once again, please take the time to listen to the first episode. You will learn a lot about Darrien's background, upbringing, career trajectory, and more. But we do hope that at least with this interview and this episode, you still learned a lot about what does it mean to be a founder of a business and one that you're actually trying to grow into a unicorn one day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.